He who aims at nothing hits it with great accuracy. I just heard that statement today. Another statement that kind of reminds me of is he who stands for nothing will fall for anything. I want you to be thinking about your vision on this Mental Health Monday because your vision is going to help you do one thing, and that is juggle logic and emotion as a leader. That is our topic for today's Mental Health Monday. Now, I am Kanae Quarter, and I'm a National Certified Counselor and the CEO of Presidential Lifestyle. And we really focus on remote teams and how to bring them together. And today I want to share with you, pour into you a little knowledge around how to juggle your emotions and logic, because as a CEO, this will make or break every business decision you make. This is what's going to help you connect with your team or either drive a wedge between you and your team. This is what's going to help you trickle down the culture you want to have in your business, because let's be clear, culture does not trickle up. You cannot build up your team and you not do any work. Culture does not trickle up, it trickles down. And you are the center of your business, not at the top. So, as you're trickling this culture out to your team, you've got to have some work in yourself done in order to do that. And the more work you're doing, self development, personal development, the more business development you will see. So let's get into our topic today, which is juggling logic and emotion as a leader. What are some of the what are some of the times when you run into having to juggle your emotions and your logic? And what is that driving force? What brings you back to your logic when you are outside of it, when you go into emotions? Now, on Thursday, I'm going to have a really deep discussion and I'll post it for you with another CEO about juggling this and really how to balance the logic and emotions. Because let's be clear, both are needed when you're running a business. It's not either or, it's when and how much. You hear me? It's not either or, it's when or how much. And over the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about that either or thinking that you can have as a leader and how it just doesn't serve you. And so as you try and juggle, whether we're talking about freedom and responsibility, which we talked about a few weeks ago, or we're talking about being an individual or being accepted, being your authentic self as an individual or being accepted and being part of the crowd, whether that is being accepted by your colleagues or being accepted by your employees, you need to choose between the two because you're not always going to be accepted. And this takes us to that logic and emotion. And in the conversation that I had with CEO Sarah Macon, she's the CEO of Macon Wellness, she talked about how you have to really decide when to have that empathy and connect with your team and when to just like put down your foot, kind of put your foot down and say, this is what we're doing. This is where we're going. This is our vision. Let's follow it. Full steam ahead. Follow me. And they may go kicking and screaming. They may not agree with you all the way, but it begins to unfold and they get to see, oh, this is why we were doing that. And if you are not able to stick to your convictions, stick to your vision, then you won't be able to guide them or lead them. You are the leader. No discussion about that. You are the leader. And it takes a certain confidence. You'll need to have a certain confidence to know when to juggle or balance or find the harmony between logic and emotion. So start with asking yourself this question: when am I emotional when I should be logical? And then let's just back that up with a second question: when am I logical when I should be emotional? Now, I'll share something about myself. I am a very logical person. I live in logic. Almost everything I do is logical and intentional, purposeful. And I remember when I was about 21, 22 years old, I was going to a naturopathic doctor. I've been healthy and metaphysical all my life. This is not a new thing for me. And so my doctor at the time, she asked me, this, because this is the kind of question a naturopathic doctor will ask you. She said, you seem stressed. Are you stressed? And I said, yeah, I feel like I might be stressed. And so then she asked me, well, do you feel like you're on purpose? And without even pausing, I said, yes, everything I do is on purpose. And she said, wow, because one, I don't know, most of the people my age, and she probably was 50 or 60 at the time, most of the people my age can't even say that with that much conviction and confidence. And two, if you're on purpose, why are you stressed? And it was like bling, like this big light bulb went off, and I was like, duh, it's all just part of the process. And from that moment on, not saying I don't get stressed anymore. From that moment on, I'm able to bring myself back to logic very quickly when I am stressed, because stress is emotion. Let's be honest about that. You get to that stress sometimes logically, right? Because you're logically thinking of all the things that have to get done, and then it sends you into your emotion. And so when I am in my emotion, that's when I start going into logic. Like, for example, sometimes I feel overwhelmed for no reason. I don't even know why. I just feel overwhelmed. And then I go and look at my like to do. I have a to do list and a today list. If you work with us, you'll find out what that means. And so I go and look at my today list, and I accomplished like at least 90% of it. Maybe a thing or two got left, and like it's something, but it's something that could get pushed over into tomorrow. And then when I look at my that was my today list. When I look at my to-do list, I'm like, oh, it's so much that's gotten taken care of. My gosh, we are like rocking and rolling. But that happens a lot of times when I just am very intentional and on point, and I'm just do handling things. Like, just I am being led by the universe to just do my thing. When I am just being led, like pulled, sometimes you have to push yourself. Other times you are being led or pulled. Well, when I am being pulled, I sometimes get overwhelmed because I'm not sure what I accomplished. But when I go back and because that kind of gives you that dopamine hit. Yeah. And right now, if Jason is watching this video, he's kind of laughing at me because one of the things in our business that we laugh, like, I talk with my hands and I make sounds. So that's just the way I communicate, as you guys have probably learned. And I love to rhyme. So as you scratch those things off your list, it doesn't always sound like that, but you can actually make that sound effect, and the dopamine hit is probably even better. You get like 2 shots of dopamine if you do it. And that shot of dopamine just feels so good. And that's emotion too. So that emotion is needed in order for the logic to make sense. See, you thought I wasn't going to tie that together, but I surprised you, didn't I? Right? So that is why that list is there for logic, but checking it off is the emotion that I need to feel. And both of those go together. But if I stayed in emotion and I wouldn't get all of those things done. I need to be in logic to get those things done. To even have the list is logical. And because I am so intentional, because I am so logical, it allows me to get things done. But when I am not allowing myself to feel those emotions, then I get overwhelmed. So you see that the emotions are good for you, but only for a short period of time. You cannot remain in them, and you cannot lead with emotion. Your vision is what's leading you. So you pour the emotion into your vision, and then you set yourself in a logical mode, and then you slide over to the emotions when you need them, but then you slide yourself right back to logic so that you can continue to lead. And then you put a second in command, in charge, that can then toggle between emotion and logic slower than you do. You need to do it this way: logic, emotion, logic, emotion. You need to be able to go back and forth really quickly. But your second in command can stay in emotion, can make sure everybody, you can come to a meeting, deliver the emotional news, and then get back into logic, right? We've lost two clients, which means we're going to have some budget cuts, or well, we got two clients, which means you guys might be getting bonuses or whatever you're bringing to the meeting, right? That's a bit, but then you got to go back into logic and run, run the ship. But you can leave your second in command in logic longer so that they can celebrate and connect and, be involved with the team a little longer. And that makes the team stay in emotion because your team is going to be in motion a lot longer than you are. What? We lost two clients. Oh my God, this is terrible. What does this mean? Am I going to lose my job? Will I be able to play? Will my kids go to college? Will I be able to retire? I mean, they're going to be in logic all the way into 2097. Might not even be alive anymore, but that's how far their emotion is going to send them. And you got to go back into logic really quickly. You can't stay in that place with them. But if you can hire somebody that can stick in an emotion just a little bit longer to allow the troops to feel what they feel, because their feelings are valid. Now, they may not be helpful, but they're valid. I really wanted to make that distinction. Their feelings are valid. Even when they're not helpful, they are valid. And so if you have that second in command that can handle those emotions, then you can go back into logic. And then your second in command also has to be very, very good at knowing how to then start to move that ship out of emotion and back into logic, because you really do need your team in logic in order for them to check off the things, right? To create that to-do list and then be able to accomplish those things on that list. But when your team, especially a team like mine, who's very client facing, when your team is client facing, they need to have a certain amount of emotion involved because they need to connect with your client. Now, so we just talked about toggling between or juggling emotions and logic with your team, but what about with your customers or with your clients? Now, when you create a marketing strategy, this is something I watch a lot of CEOs do. They create these marketing strategies that are so logical. They have all these features listed and they have all the jargon listed and very logical emotions. But marketing is not about logic, it is about emotion. Marketing tells your customer how to feel about you. You hear me? Marketing tells your customer how to feel about you. So if your marketing is too logical, you're going to lose them. They won't be able to connect. Now, a certain amount of that needs to be logical because they're going to have to click the link or even if the link just says get a demo, and or if they need to click the link to purchase right then and there, whatever it is, make the appointment, whatever they have to do, they need to have an emotional connection with you in order to do that. So your marketing has to juggle a logic and emotion. And if you're not doing that in a well thought out way, then, and this is where the logic comes in, you have to be logical about how to be emotional. Because if you let emotions drive you and it's too much emotion in there, then there won't be a call to action. A call to action is logical. The connection is emotional, but you've got to have that connection in order for them to take action. Make sense? Good. Now that is, and I wanted to make that a distinction that marketing tells your customers how to feel about you. Now, when it comes to sales, that is around thinking, when to think of you. When they are ready to make a buying decision, they need to be thinking about you. And if your sales team is doing a good enough job to keep them top of mind, to juggle that emotion and the logic, they have to have enough logic to know, oh, this is the time when I'm supposed to make that call to ABC company. So if you can give them the emotion in the marketing and logic in the sales process, that's when they'll be thinking about you. Sales is when they should be thinking about you, when they're ready to make a buying decision. The thought. Now, keep in mind that That buying decision might have come out of frustration, which is an emotion, right? I'm tired of this. People come to us when they are tired of their remote teams being so disconnected and they can't figure out if everybody is productive and they're just not engaged and things are not getting done. And that's trickling down into their customers and they're seeing the bottom line suffering. And that's when we get that call where it's like, okay, we've tried this enough on our own. We need some help. Our team is burnout and stressed. We need some mental health work. And by the time they finally get to that, that might be an emotional decision. But because our sales team was logical enough to talk them through when to make that, when to push that button, right? When to make that call, they knew when to call. But if you get emotional in the sales process and you get upset or you take it personally, then the connection won't be there because you are in emotion when you should be in logic. Mhm. Now, last thing I want to give you. So we talked about when to juggle, how to juggle emotions and logic with your team, and then how to juggle a lot emotions and logic in your marketing. Now, let's talk about that when it comes to your personal development, you as a leader. Now, there are going to be times when you're going to want to compare yourself. And Sarah Macon and I of Sarah Macon Wellness, we're going to talk about this a lot in our conversation that you should watch on Thursday. And if you're watching this and it's much later, then just click the link and wherever you're watching this, you'll be able to also see that video. And it's in and the reason why this is important is because when you talk to another CEO or another leader, you can be in emotion. You can allow your emotions to come through. You can be vulnerable, but you got to have the right CEOs, the right leaders around you. In a room full of leaders, don't try to lead. Holy crap. I know you just had a breakthrough. You don't have to be the leader in a room full of leaders. It's just not needed. Stop trying to know it all, be it all, do it all. That is not out of place. That's just out of place. In a room full of leaders, be vulnerable. And in a room full of your team or your customers, be a leader, be logical. Of course, unless you need to sprinkle a little emotion on them, but in order to lead them, you've got to be in logic. But when you are in a room of leaders, get yourself in a room of leaders. Get yourself a tame your brain therapist so that you can be emotional. But if you never put yourself in a position where you get to be emotional, then you are going to just spill your emotions all over the place and be sloppy about it. But if you know when, all right, I'm going to hold on to this until I go talk to my Tame Your Brain therapist. I'm going to hold on to this until I go talk to my mentor. I'm going to hold on to this until I go talk to my bestie, my CEO bestie. That's when you can be emotional. But you stay in logic when you're with your team and when you're with your clients most of the time. And I'm going to give you some percentages, but I think you need to find your own percentages, your own slider. But I would say 70 or more percent needs to be in logic when you are leading your team or your customers, which means 30% or less is in emotion. You still got to give some emotion, but not a bit, not most of it. Now, if there are times if somebody passes away or there's a catastrophic event, basically, then you can dip further into your emotions. You might need to be 70% in the emotion and really give to that situation what it needs in that moment. Now, barring that catastrophic event, other than that, stay fully in your emotions about 70%. Now, like I said, that might be 60% for you. That might be 80% for you. You find your slider. You slide it where you need it to be. But don't you go putting yourself too much in emotion because you might find that it's hard to get out of it once you do it. Now, the next thing I want you to think about is when going back to your work, doing your work, sustaining as a leader, really think about who do I trust? Who do I know? Who can I lean on? Now, I didn't make that as part of your field work, but it really is part of your field work because juggling logic and emotion as a leader, you just can't do it by yourself. And so, as part of your field work, I have a couple things I want you to be thinking about, a couple of questions I want you to ask yourself. But one that I didn't put in there was what I just said. Who can I trust? Who can I lean on? Who can I be with where I can be emotional? And then that person can stay in their logic for me. And when needed, I can make that shift and be in logic for them and they be in emotion. And Sarah and I are that for each other. I have other colleagues that I can do that with, that where there's that reciprocity. I am in masterminds and I recommend this for you too, because this is an everyday situation. And even as I say that, I say every day, and I'm thinking it's really every moment. Any moment can shift you out of logic and push you into emotion. So you really want to make sure that you're staying on top of this, that you're setting the intention throughout the day to be at your best and stay in logic and create just the right amount of emotion. But it does take some design and some creativity, and you aren't able to do that by yourself. So let's go to your field work. When does your team need you to be emotional? Really think about that. When? And I gave you some ideas here, and I want you to take that a little bit further and apply it to your specific situation. And then think about, when does your team need you to be in logic? Now apply that to your specific situation. Really think about it. I gave you some ideas, I gave you some measurements that you can think about. And then I want you to, you may be watching this as it comes out. So you're going to wait a couple of days, and then you're going to watch my video interview with CEO of Making Wellness for more answers to these questions, because Sarah is running a multi-million-dollar therapy practice that definitely takes a certain amount of logic. But when you have that many team members, you really have to finesse when that emotion comes out. And so she has some really great insights, and I encourage you to watch that video as well. Of course, I'll post it here wherever you're watching this video. And really, the last thing that I want to tell you is that if you have a remote team and you're finding that you're having a hard time connecting, that are really pouring into your team or giving to your team, then I invite you to visit our website, tryculturesync.com, and just have a conversation with me or one of my team members. It could be me, it might not be, but it could be me that you have a conversation with. And eventually you and I will get connected if you decide to come on, and maybe you even try it for 30 days and see if it works for your team. And what I will tell you is that logic is where you get to your next level. Emotion is what clicks in or like reminds you that you need to go to your next level. You see what I'm saying? Logic is what's going to get you or take you to your next level, but you need that emotional click to happen that lets you know, oh, it's time for me to go to my next level as a leader. So be thinking about that. Put in the comments anything that popped up for you. Like maybe you have the answers to some of the questions I've asked here, or it's some insight, or maybe you have a question. Go ahead, put it in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Every single day, every single moment, you have the opportunity to balance your emotions and your logic as you juggle them. And it is a very delicate mix. But I assure you that if you continue to watch our Mental Health Monday video, if you continue to just follow along with us, whether you become a member or not, is not as important as if you are dedicated to doing your work, whatever that means. If that means showing up every single week, finding out what we're talking about and becoming part of the conversation, or if that means committing to taking your team to the next level with Culture Sync, either way, let me see you here next week and every week.